Welcome to the Passive Income Podcast. I am your host, Dividend Dave. Please be sure to join the Passive Income Posse by clicking that subscribe button below. Super excited for today's episode. I believe we are up to episode number 85. 85 different people coming on here sharing different journeys, paths, stories. And so, yeah, very excited to have Laura as the guest today on this episode. So, Laura, go ahead and give yourself an introduction.
Um, all right. Well, my name is Laura. I am 40 years old, so starting in this game a little bit late, but better
Better
late
late
than
than
never.
never.
I'm from the Toronto area. Um, for work, I'm a general manager at Foot Locker. So that keeps me on my toes and keeps me very busy.
Right.
Because I definitely don't put in my 40 hours a week. It's probably closer to like 45 to 50 most weeks.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
But it is what it is. Happily married, no kids, two cats,
Yeah.
and three nephews that I absolutely adore and spoil as much as I can.
That's awesome. So before we get any further into this, please, if you're watching, please watch through to the end because I do have a special announcement that Patrick and I from Investing Shirts we have schemed up. So there'll be an announcement at the end of this video. And yeah, so let's get into talking about um, investing, obviously passive income.
Yeah.
And already right off the hop, I heard a few things like, well, actually one on your Twitter handle, it says or in your profile, new to investing, and then in brackets, and kind of addicted, like to new to dividend investing and kind of addicted or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess first talk about how the addiction has manifested itself.
Um, I basically started just by like making it a habit. I don't have a ton of money to be throwing into investing like
Right.
some other people out there, but I felt that if I made it a habit to myself, being like, okay, 25 bucks every week.
Yeah.
So like every either Monday or every Friday, whatever the case may be, if I make that a habit, it'll just it'll become natural and it's just going to
Right.
be like, "Oh, it's Friday. Let me transfer my 25 bucks over, into my investing account and go from there." And but then once I really started doing a lot of my research, and I was doing a lot of research prior to really digging in, um, and once I saw those like dividends starting to roll in, and I'm like
Yeah.
reinvesting them, and it's just once you start seeing those dividends come in, you're like, okay, now I really got to stick to
Right.
this schedule, and it's just kind of been
And sometimes those first dividends too, like you start with $25 and you buy one or maybe two shares of something, and that first dividend is going to be,
like eight
I
cents
was going
or
to say 9 cents, 8 or 9 cents, something like
yeah,
that. But you know what? Like, tell me if you agree with this, but I find, especially when you're starting, those are super exciting, right? Like it's eight
yeah,
cents. It's literally 8 cents that I didn't work for. And you
yeah,
see that it's like I can turn this 8 cents into 16 cents and 32 cents and
yeah,
64 cents and then
and it's
a
just that
dollar, $2
snowball just
and
going.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's kind of part of it too, is being able to see like the dividends of your work. So
yeah, yeah,
seeing like the product of, the consistency and the effort that you're putting in and it's coming back, and you're like, now I'm at the point where I'm getting, anywhere from 4 to 6 dividend payments a month, depending
nice,
on the month.
yeah,
And they're getting into the like they're over $1 now each time, and stuff like that. And then I've also got um my like an ESPP as well through Foot Locker, which has been I've been in with that um, as early as I could, so probably almost 4.5 years now.
so that's an employee stock purchase plan.
Yep, yep. So we get 15% off of the fair market value at the time of purchase. They do a purchase like once a year, so they take the money off your paycheck, whatever you want, whether it be a percentage or a dollar amount or
Right.
whatever, and they just kind of stockpile it away, and then I think it's like June 1st. Yeah, it was June 1st. Every year they do like a big bulk purchase. So all the money that you've put in for the last year, they're like, okay, that like 5, 6, $700, whatever the case may
Whatever it
be.
is, here's your
Yeah, they're buying a bunch of shares and it's at 15% off, which is great.
yeah.
And then that account is obviously it's dripping my dividends as well. So it's automatic reinvestment. So it's been doing that for like I want to say about 4 years,
Right.
something like that now, which has been great. And it's like one of those things I didn't even realize it was automatically reinvesting the dividends because it was just like, oh, work's dealing with it. Like I'm not even paying attention to it. It's just
Yeah.
like it is entirely passive because I don't even have to
Think
transfer.
about it.
Yeah, it's just they take it off my paycheck and they deal with it, and it's just like
Right.
okay, cool. But I'm at the point now where I think with the next dividend payout on my ESPP, the dividend will be enough to buy an entire other share,
Wow. Yeah. So
which
that's
is
big.
it's pretty big. It's my personal investment account is not quite to that point yet, but being able to see like my work one get
Yeah. Well, and you can see it happen. You know what's going to happen in the future, whether it's 2, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months down the road, 2 years down the road, on whichever other companies that you own. And we'll get into talking about that as well. I do first want to touch on, obviously, Foot Locker is an American company, and we are in Canada.
Yep.
And so, are those Foot Locker shares then in your RRSP?
No, no. Um, they're invested through a company called Computer Share. Um, Foot Locker takes care of that for us, but they withhold the taxes for us, so we don't have to deal with any taxes come tax time,
Right,
which is really nice for the Canadians that do work for Foot Locker and are investing into the stock program.
right.
So
Again, it sounds like they've thought of everything to make it as easy as possible on their employees, which is good from both their perspective and the employee perspective, right? Like, just
yeah,
make it
of
easy.
course. Like especially like if you're thinking like the majority of Foot Locker's workforce, especially on like the sales front, like in the field in the stores, is a younger generation than I am. And a lot of these guys are like what do you mean I have to pay taxes on this stuff from tax time? So the fact that like they don't even have to deal with it is just great because
Yeah, helpful.
I feel like, that 20 to 25-year-old age group now is not the same as it was 15 years ago when
Right.
I was 25. Like when I was 25, I was thinking like, yeah, I got to pay my taxes, I got to file them. This is the date. These guys now they're like, "Oh, well, when's tax time?" And
Yeah.
you know, the world is different. Things have
Yeah,
changed.
for sure.
So the fact that it's made it that much easier for them, um, and there's a whole slew of other things that Foot Locker has done for employees as well, with like some financial. They've teamed up with a company called Enrich for financial literacy and stuff like that, and it's free for all employees, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And stuff like that. Like on
Especially like you said, you have so many of these younger 20 to 25-year-olds, and obviously you see that on Twitter all the time, and everybody talks about how financial literacy is not taught in
no,
schools, and
it's
you
not.
basically have to learn on your own. You have to either go to YouTube University or Google, right, and figure it out for yourself. So I think that's amazing that the company is taking an initiative like that to help their employees understand
Yeah,
the importance of financial literacy.
yeah, and you get stuff like that. And obviously it's up to the employee whether they want to
Yeah,
follow along or not. But the fact that it is available, and it is free, it doesn't cost anything. The company's eating the cost of the registration and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah,
I also find it's actually kind of funny. My staff in my store call me Mama, kind of like in the Stewie Griffin voice from Family Guy. But I am kind of like a mother figure to a lot of them. They come to
yeah,
me
for
when
sure.
they're having issues at home with family, with friends, and stuff like that. Um, And in particular, my assistant managers, I've talked to them about like financial literacy and be like, hey, you really should start investing. You're still living at home with mom and dad. You're pulling in this much money every 2 weeks. Like, put some
You could really stockpile a nice little chunk of change because,
at their
you know,
age. Yeah, like one of my
yeah, you're not
managers, he's only
maybe they're paying a little bit of rent, but they're not paying full rent.
no, they're not paying
And
2,500 bucks a month or anything like that.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. And they're not paying for food or for very little food. And they're probably their only real bill is paying for their own cell phone. Hopefully they're paying their own cell phone bill. No comment on that one. Some of them maybe aren't even paying that.
Yeah,
And
no comment. But yeah, just trying to get them to be at least like, hey, I know you like to go out with your friends, you Uber, you this, you that, you buy shoes, you buy
yeah,
clothes, you buy all this kind of stuff, but it's like, hey, if you even just $50 a paycheck, set that aside into an investment, and like $50, that's $25 a week. You're not really gonna
yeah,
miss it that much, especially if
exactly.
they're putting it into an account on payday. So you do it on payday. That way you're not missing that money. It's already gone.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
As you saw my tweet from about an hour ago, I don't call it payday. I call it pay myself first today.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. But yeah, trying to teach them about that stuff. And a couple of them, one of my assistant managers, one of my part-timers even that has like a full-time job on the side, or I should say we're on the side now,
Yeah.
um, has come to me and been like, hey, I'm gonna wait a couple more paychecks, get myself settled, and then I want you to teach me about this stuff.
Yeah. Good.
Which is really cool because they're seeing these like the interest rates going up, the inflation, and they're like, I gotta protect myself
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah. The inflation is a
So
killer. Everyone's seeing that. So
yeah.
a
So
couple more
yeah.
points, kind of circling back to the beginning. When you said you were 40 and I'm 50, and so I can relate to the feeling like you're behind, not having enough where you should be to think about retirement. For myself in 10 or 15 years, and for yourself in probably 15 or 20 years, or maybe 25 years. Who knows, right?
We'll see.
Um, so I guess I'm not really sure how I'm trying to frame this. Part of the conversation, but do you feel like you're playing catch up at this point?
Yeah,
I definitely do.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Especially right now since I've only like been more serious about it for the last like 6 months or so. It's definitely
Right.
been playing catch up, but we've also had other like life circumstances that we had to pay off some pretty hefty debts in the last few years, and my husband and I were like, you know what, we got to pay off those debts before we start working on the rest, because that
Yeah.
rest is not going to cover that 28% interest on those debts.
Yeah. No.
Like
Wow.
there's nothing that's gonna there's no dividend out there that will cover a 28%
No.
interest. Um,
No. Yeah. So
so
yeah, a good point there is like definitely have to have uh, your debt under control. And that's one thing I'm lucky. I do have a mortgage payment still on my house, and I keep my credit card balance either paid off every month or carry a very low, like $100 or $150, where I get charged 67 or 75 cents interest, which still kind of sucks because it's like, well, I'd rather have that 75 cents, but at the end of the day, it's not going to,
no, exactly.
break my back.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the great point of, getting that debt under control and getting yourself in a position where it's like, okay, now when I start putting my, 25 a week, 100 a month,
Whatever.
whatever,
Yeah.
and then you can start seeing, getting those dividend, you have more, more hope for the future.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, definitely. At least like the one thing is like we do get a pension in Canada when we retire, but like we know with
Yeah.
the way the inflation has been, like the elderly population right now, they can't survive
Oh,
with
no.
this inflation with the pension that they're getting. So like what we're looking at is not to necessarily replace our entire income with dividends, but to supplement once the time comes that we do want to retire, so that we
Yeah,
have
exactly.
pension and the extra that will kind of hopefully balance out to what our incomes are at the time of
Yeah, so
retirement.
I've said this in the past also that like y- you know, to agree with your point, you can't rely on just CPP, the Canada Pension Plan, and OAS Old Age Security to support you in retirement. Those two things, in my opinion, those two things should be the bonus. They should be your bonus checks every month
Yeah,
to be able to, hey, I got my bonus, so I can, take a trip to Montreal for the weekend or whatever, right? Or
yeah, or deal with it.
cross the border and go to Syracuse at my end of the lake, or like Buffalo at your end of the lake, or just something, right? Where where you're going to spend a bit of money. So those things should be like sort of your bonus checks, in my opinion. And you need to have something else, whether it's passive income from dividends or whatever else, because obviously there's so many other ways
Yeah,
of making money.
yeah, tons of other ways. And that's one of the things that we're working on as well, is just having multiple streams of income and not just dealing on our,
Yeah,
in my husband's case, a Monday to Friday 9 to 5. In my case, it is not a Monday to Friday 9 to 5. It's kind of all over the
right.
place, but um, you know, we can't just rely on that anymore. It's not enough. So
Yeah,
just doing other things on the side. I'm working. I do some Uber Eats on the side, on my day off, or if I'm working like that 8:30 to 5 shift, and my husband, he's in the office that day, and he's like, oh, I'm not going to be home till 7 o'clock because of traffic coming in from out of town. So I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'll go do some Uber Eats for an hour and a half, pull in an extra, 30, $40. It's something. And
nice little side hustle. Yeah,
yeah,
like you said,
and it's not passive, but it's still
but
income, and I'll throw it right into that investment account. So it's been building a little bit higher now that I've been putting that in there too, and it's not just the $25 a week or anything like that. So
that's good. So yeah, you're doing your $25 a week plus 30 or 40 every time you do an Uber Eats shift for a few hours.
yeah,
So
and like every once in a while, I'm not putting it into there. Last month was my nephew's birthday, so those 2 extra days
yeah,
of Uber Eats that I did went towards his birthday present, and it's stuff like that. But then at least I'm not pulling his birthday present out of our bill money, I think.
yeah, no,
And
that's
then it'll be the same thing next month when it's my next nephew's birthday and stuff like that. But it's having those extra streams of income that you don't really have to worry about events like that, like people's birthdays, Christmas,
yeah.
anniversaries and stuff like that. So
Yeah, side hustles are definitely great. Like you said, for the most part, they're not passive, but at least, like you said, it's some extra cash, whether it's 30, 40, $60, whatever you're getting, right? It's better than nothing.
exactly, exactly. And it's, if you have the ability to throw that extra income into investing or retirement or whatever the case may be, because I'm not always throwing the money into my investment account. Sometimes I'll be throwing it into my RRSP. We are trying to buy our first home at some point, but with the interest rates, who knows when that'll be.
Yeah,
And the cost of housing in the GTA is just astronomical.
yeah.
So
I do also want to circle back to that 8 cents.
yep,
That it sounds like that was your very first dividend, eight
probably
cents.
something like that. Yeah.
Do you remember what company it was from?
um, I want to say Royal Bank, RBC.
Okay.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, I probably started there. And then now I've
So you
got my
must have been a
health.
fractional share.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was a
The
fractional
great
share of
thing
a.
about Wealth Simple, yeah, Wealth Simple in Canada, and I believe the US has like Robinhood
Yeah,
and Webull and stuff like that, is the ability to purchase fractional shares. Um, and starting that snowball like a little bit earlier, because I know there's some people out there that have the mindset of they don't want to invest until they have enough money to buy an entire share.
right.
And I'm trying to tell them, like, you don't have to have an entire share. If you're looking at, I don't know, what's Tesla at right now? Let's
Yeah, I
say.
don't know. I'd actually Royal Bank is probably around what 130 or something, 125.
Yeah, I think I saw it close yesterday around 126.
Yeah,
So it's like, and I tell them, I'm like, you don't have to save up until you have that $125 to buy an entire share. Like, put in
you
that
can
that
25 and
20,
you get that 1/5 fraction.
yeah, and you just kind of roll it over each week, and then at least you've started that snowball.
Yeah,
You might get in come, that ex dividend date, you have half of a share. So you're getting a little bit of a dividend back,
yeah, yeah.
you know. And it just kind of, you start that snowball a little bit earlier, being able to do fractional shares, which I really like.
Awesome. You've said one thing several times now, which is like just getting started. And it's so very important, right? I've talked about it with so many other guests here on the Passive Income podcast. And I call it my Moneyball reference. Do you remember the movie Moneyball with Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill?
Yeah.
And it was like, just get on base. Like
Yeah.
the whole point of that
Just
movie is just
start.
get on base. And
Yeah.
that's literally what starting is like, just get on base, just get started. So, yeah, you've actually said that several times now without even realizing it. Like, just get started. It's so important, right? And
Yeah.
whether you're 20, 25, 35, 40, it's like, just get started. So, so very important. You mentioned Royal Bank, so I guess let's talk about the Canadian banks. And we know how strong they are. We know how much money they make every quarter. Which sometimes, from a consumer perspective, you're like, "Holy wow!" But from a investor perspective, you're like, "Holy wow!"
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, I find, like at the very least, investing in the Canadian banks seems to be a lot safer right now than, especially some of the stuff in the U.S. going on with some of these banking collapses. Like Canada does have a little bit more of a monopoly, I
Yeah.
guess, or oligopoly. I can't
Oh,
remember
yeah.
what the specific word is, but like, there's not very many like private banks out there in Canada. Which some people don't like, but if you think of it, that just makes everything that much safer. It's
Yeah.
controlled.
More regulated. There's a
Yeah,
much higher barrier to entry. Like, you
yeah,
can't just go and rent a building on the corner of Main Street and Fifth Avenue or whatever and say, "Okay, I'm opening a bank." Right? Like,
exactly. It doesn't work like that. But it does make things a lot safer and a lot more secure. And I know, like, kind of a little bit of a side piece. A lot of the Canadian banks have won so many like global awards for their customer service, they're this, they're that. Like,
mhm,
they're so well known for being so stable and so good. And you know, every bank's gonna have their downfalls, but
for sure.
each one is gonna have their highlights as well.
Yeah, I think you can say that about any business. There's going to be pros and cons, right? So,
Yeah,
or literally about anything in life, there's going to be pros and cons. So,
yeah, for sure.
other than Royal Bank, do you have any of the others?
I have Scotia, and yeah, just Scotia and Royal Bank for myself. My husband has CIBC, because he's been banking with them since he was a kid, so that's just
Right,
kind of what he's stuck with. But yeah, that's pretty much it for us. It's definitely, some of the other banks is definitely something I've been looking into towards the future.
right,
Um, but yeah, just trying to build the current dividends that I have right now to a point where I'm getting into that like $3 and $4 and $5 dividend payments each quarter before I start digging into another one.
right. Yeah.
So
No, and you'll be surprised, how quickly those $5 becomes 10, and 10 becomes 20, 20 becomes 40, and then all of a sudden, at 40, you're buying, you know, Bank of Nova Scotia today was around 63, so $40, you're at two-thirds of a share, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
that starts to make a big difference, real fast.
Yeah,
Actually, on my buys today, I know you saw my tweet earlier. I did have close to I think it was $38 sitting in my brokerage account from dividends. So literally two-thirds of that share of Bell was paid for with dividends from other companies. So
yeah, yeah, and that's the great thing as well. I'm not sure if you use Wealth Simple or
Yeah,
not.
I do. Yeah, I do.
Do you have the auto dividends turned on
No,
or no? No.
no, and the reason is I have nothing against automatic drip. I think it's great for people that want to like sort of set it and forget it. But I really, really, really like to take my dividends from one company and dollar cost average down in other positions.
Yeah, I'm honestly doing the same thing. I've had some people reach out to me and they're like, "Oh, why aren't you auto dripping?" And I'm like, "Well, like, why are you?" Um, because
Yeah,
it's similar to you. I'd rather take that. When I get that at the end of the month, and I've got that $5 or $6 in dividend payments. Right now, eventually it'll be more, but
yeah,
why would I have that? That $1.15 from one auto drip into itself when the stock's going up, when I can put that $1.15 into something that what I would call is on sale,
yeah,
and keep that dollar cost average either lower or on par to what I'm at currently.
yeah. I
So
really I do occasionally like DCA up, but I for the most part I try my hardest to DCA down on almost everything I buy.
yeah,
So
yeah, I do the same things. I'm like, hey, it's on sale, and then when it goes up, I have more of what I had for less money. So
exactly, exactly.
yeah,
And
the only thing.
you mentioned trying to buy a house, so real estate, and obviously real estate in Toronto and Vancouver are crazy real estate markets in Canada. Um, another
Yeah.
way to invest in real estate, obviously, is REITs. And so I'm just kind of curious if you own any REITs, if what's your opinion on REITs? If you do have REITs, what ones do you hold? Um,
I do. Let me double check what I got right now. Uh, I have SRU.UN, so Smart Centers.
Smart Center, yeah.
And then I have True North, so
TNT,
TNT.
massive dividend cut there about 2 or 3 months ago, where they split it pretty much. I think they cut it in half because I have TNT also, and I was up really nicely on that a year ago, and I thought maybe I should sell, and then I didn't because I'm like, "Hey, it's paying me this nice little dividend monthly." And then what was it around April, March or April? It was just like slashed in half, and I'm like, "Oh,
It might have been before I bought in because I think I bought into TNT actually at the end of May is when I
oh."
started.
So you've got a good price too, because when that dividend cut happened, the price dropped. So
Yeah, it's sitting at like
I think
two.
you have a better. Well, I know you have a better entry point than I do on that one.
Yeah. Um, like I'm down on it right now, but it's nothing outrageous, and it's nothing that I'm
Yeah,
worried about because a lot of people out there are saying like you got to be comfortable being in the red to appreciate being in the green eventually at some point. And I'm not here. I'm not day trading, so I don't really care if I'm dropping down 7 cents today. Like big deal. It'll go
yeah,
up
yeah,
another
exactly.
day. Like I'm holding it long term. And then I also have realty income from the US as well. So
Awesome. So Smart Center, another great monthly dividend payer. I do not personally own Smart Center. It's been on my watch list for a very long time. Probably the primary reason I don't have Smart Center is because I do have a substantial amount of RioCan, and I find that they're very similar business models
yeah,
of retail and residential. So,
yeah, for sure.
and I think you can argue for either one of them which one is better. So I just happen to be more familiar with RioCan than Smart Center.
Yeah. I
Um,
think like I when I looked into smart centers, the nice thing was is that smart centers have Walmart in all of them, and Walmart
right.
is such a strong um holding for them.
Yeah.
And like there's Walmarts everywhere. Walmart's not going to go out of business no matter what anyone says. So just
Not anytime soon.
the fact that Walmart is in pretty much every smart center out there, it's a guaranteed large chunk of their real estate that is occupied.
Yeah. Yeah. A
So
lot of square footage taken up by Walmart. So
yeah. Um, But yeah, so it's just Smart Centers, True North, and then Realty Income in the States as far as rights.
Yeah, so Realty Income, ticker symbol O, that's a fan favorite here on the Passive Income Podcast. Um, Probably 99% of American guests on the Passive Income Podcast hold Realty Income. And then, like yourself, several Canadians hold it as well. Um, I personally, I don't hold it. That's more of a personal reason for the exchange rate at this time. Um, in the future, it's definitely in the top three of my on my watch list for U.S. Companies that I may invest in the future.
Hmm.
What I do love about the Realty Income is I believe so they pay a monthly dividend, but I believe they raise their dividend every quarter, and I believe it's a very incremental raise,
Yeah,
like sort of 0.002 or something like that. But still, the fact that they raise it that little incremental bit every 3 months is just amazing.
yeah, it's great, and just the fact that there's more and more uh, rights, ETFs, and a bunch of different stuff like that that are doing more monthly dividends as opposed to quarterly, really helps to get that snowball going as well. Even
Right.
though the dividend across the 3 months would be the same as
Yeah.
quarterly, but if you're reinvesting it right away, you're just
Yep.
you're more ahead. And some
Yep.
people don't think it is because they're like, oh, why are you going to get $1 per month when you can get $3 at
Yeah.
for the quarter? But if I'm reinvesting that dollar each month, I have a little bit more of a share.
Yeah.
So that come that end of the 3 months, it's not $3, it's
30
$3.50,
cents or whatever. Yeah.
or yeah, whatever the case may be. So
Yeah. I've said that so many times here on the Passive Income Podcast that a 5% yield is 5%, whether it's paid out quarterly or monthly, because obviously 5% is annualized. But
mhm.
to me personally, I think it's something psychological. I love every month on say the 7th or 8th or the 15th or 16th of every month when it's like, oh, there's just more money in my brokerage account. Awesome. I like it. I like it when more money shows up.
Exactly. And I like also the fact that there's a lot more like Canadian ETFs coming out that are mirroring the American ones.
Right.
So we've got VDY in Canada, so it's like the Vanguard, the high
Yeah.
yield Vanguard, but like so that we're not taxed on it. So the exchange rate or whatever the case may be. So
Yeah.
the fact that there's more and more of that that's not becoming available because it's probably always been available. I haven't really looked into it that much, but it's just becoming more mainstream. I guess you
Yeah,
can
for
say a
sure.
lot more people know about it now.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of really good ETFs in Canada. I'm not super familiar with them because I do hold a few ETFs, but I am more of an individual stock investor. And I mean, again, one of those things. There's no wrong answer. It's sort of it's what you're comfortable uh, with yourself doing. And ETFs are great, right? Like going
Yeah.
back to my watch list of the U.S. stocks is SCHD is also in those top three on my watch list, and that's an incredible um, index fund or ETF. I'm not even sure which it is, but holding these incredible American companies. So yeah, ETFs are a great way to go, and it's just a personal choice whether you prefer ETFs or individual companies.
Yeah. I have a mix of both, to be honest.
Yeah, no, that's good.
You know,
I
like to
think
be
that's good.
diversified.
Awesome. So I mentioned briefly Bell, so I'm just kind of want to get your take on the telecoms, Bell, Telus, Rogers, Quebecor.
um, I haven't invested in any of them yet. It's definitely, on the watch list. Something I want to do a little bit more research into. Honestly, though, not really a huge fan of any of the Canadian telecoms.
Yeah,
When it comes to the
that's the
personal side of
consumer
it.
speaking. Yeah, that's not the
Right.
investor speaking.
No, no, not at all. So it's the consumer side of me is a little hesitant.
Yeah,
But it's one of those things where I definitely just have to do my research before diving in. But I think just on the consumer side of things, I think the telecoms can do a better job.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. Yeah,
be like
definitely with
our brother in the U.S. a little bit, because the U.S. telecoms just are so much better in so many ways.
well, yeah, price. Well, like I think Canada is still by far the highest cell phone rates in the world.
Yeah,
I
they're
don't think
up
it's even
there.
close.
Yeah, they're up there, definitely. And one of the good things, a lot of employers out there do have like employee purchase programs when it comes
Right.
to cell phone bills and stuff like that. That's another thing that Foot Locker has. We're tied with TELUS. So I did switch from Rogers just before Christmas, actually. And my husband and I were able to cut our cell phone bill almost in half through an
Wow,
employee purchase program, which is a lot.
that helps. Yeah.
Yeah, and they've just paired up with an internet company as well, which we would get a employee price plan on. We just have to do a little more research into it because it's not a mainstream internet
Right.
provider. And with my husband does work from home most of the time, and
So he's reliant on a good internet connection.
very, very.
Yeah.
He works for Siemens Electric, so big
Oh wow.
brand, a global brand, and he's got to be online sometimes super early in the morning if he's got a call with the teams in Germany or in Turkey or anything like that.
Right.
And he definitely needs a reliable internet line. And after the good old blackout last summer with
Right.
we definitely want to avoid that, and that was one of the main reasons why we did switch our cell phones to TELUS, because we just didn't want to have our cell phones and our internet be with the same provider if there was a major issue to happen again. Because at least now, if Rogers does go down, because we are still with Rogers for our internet, he can hotspot off of his cell phone.
Right.
Might chew up the bandwidth a little bit, but it's at least something that makes it that he can still get his work done.
Right.
So,
So the reason I brought it up again, as you know, I invest in Bell, and I don't own Telus, but I've been watching it for the last month because it's been trading at and around its 52-week lows of, I think it went down to like $25 and change, and so it's just one of those shares where I've been looking at it going,
the,
that's a great entry point.
yeah, the price is looking good.
Yeah. But then on the other side of that is like one of the reasons I haven't pulled the trigger is like how many positions is too many? And that's another hot topic that I've asked so many guests here on the Passive Income Podcast is like, you know, I've had guests that said they only have 10 holdings but they have a lot of shares in each of those 10.
Yeah,
And then I've had others that have been like 40, 50, 60, 70 different positions. I think over 70 was like one of the highest, obviously.
wow.
And it's like, well, how, you know, are you over diversified at that point? How are you, how are you stacking any shares in any one company? Um,
Yeah,
so I guess, and again, it comes down to a personal choice. And right now I believe I'm at about 24, maybe 25 uh, total positions, stocks and ETFs. And so I keep saying to myself, Dave, just keep it under 30, just keep it under 30. So far I'm doing okay on that. But I guess that's sort of another question for you is, how many do you have in your portfolio right now? And what do you think your comfort number is?
uh currently I'm sitting at 10. um
Right.
2, 3, 4, 5 individual stocks, and then 5 either rights or ETFs. So it's kind of split right down the middle. I
Yeah.
would like some more, but I think this is a good entry point at my point in the journey.
Yeah.
Still being relatively new, and I want to build the positions that I do have now before I start diving into
Yeah. I
some
think,
other things.
in my opinion, that's a great strategy. Not financial advice, obviously, but I think I agree with you 100% to like build those positions till so you have more shares of the companies you're already investing in. You can focus on those. You can dollar cost average down on them quite often
Yeah,
as your dividends grow. And then at somewhere along the line you're going to see something like I said, I've been watching TELUS for the last month because that 52-week low is like that's quite appealing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, right now what's it at? $25.80 currently right now, which and their 52-week low is $25.04. So it's
Yeah,
pretty
so it
close
was
to
that low. It was almost down to 25 even. I knew it got down there, and it was like, yeah.
that. Yeah, definitely.
But honestly, like even 3 or 4 months ago, it was around 28, and I was like, even at 28, I think TELUS is a good buy. So
Yeah,
again, not financial advice.
yeah. Um, yeah, definitely. There's some things on my watch list, but yeah, like I said, just trying to build the positions that I have now, where I'm getting those dividend payments that are getting into get out of the cents and get into the dollars,
Yeah,
so that things can start rolling a little bit more, and then maybe 6 months to a year from now, maybe one of my dividend payments will be like, okay, now I can buy a half a share of this
other
new
company. Yeah,
company that I've been, keeping my eye on and stuff like that. Because the majority of my dividend income currently, though, is tied up and I can't touch it. Is through my ESPP. So
right.
um, I've actually got
Which is fine because that's in a completely different portfolio anyway. So like
exactly.
you can just focus on building your wealth simple portfolio, and I again I think that's a great strategy
Yeah.
in my opinion. So just quickly, curiously, what are the other individual stocks? You mentioned Royal Bank, so there's four others, or
Yeah.
did we mention?
So Royal Bank, Scotiabank, Enbridge,
Oh
um,
yeah,
and then Johnson and Johnson in the States, and Foot Locker, obviously,
right.
because I've got some Foot Locker in my Wealth Simple as well as through my Employee Purchase Prem.
Okay. Enbridge, another great Canadian company. Personally, I don't own it. I wish I did. It's been on my watch list. It's been on my watch list since Moses was a boy.
Yeah, it's pretty low right now. It's a good time to buy. It's again like Telus, it's nearing its 52-week low, sitting at
Right.
just under $49 right now, and its 52-week low is 47.63. So
Yeah.
not bad, not bad. I'm up, I believe, on Enbridge. Like my dollar cost average has me in the green.
In the green. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. And that's another one. It's had a steady dividend as well. It's consistent. It's reliable.
Yeah. And dividend growth over time too. I'm not sure if Enbridge is a well, I'm sure they must be a king or an aristocrat. Honestly, I'd have to go back and look. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah,
I shouldn't even be talking about it because I don't know right off the top of my head.
yeah. Let me check. Enbridge Canada. They've raised their quarterly dividend for the last 8 years, from
Yeah.
what I can see. Possibly even longer. But just off of the quick top on dividendhistory.org, it's since 2015 it's been raised either 10% or higher.
Yeah. So that's good growth,
Yeah.
right? Nice. And there's another nice thing too about the dividend investing is you get these raises that you don't even ask for. It's like, yeah, sure, sometimes you get cuts and they hurt, but the raises are real nice,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
it's
and
just
especially if you're like as part of the research is researching into the companies that have a steady track record of dividend raises, and not cuts. So there's some companies in there that they'll raise, plateau, raise, plateau, but a plateau is better than a cut.
yeah, for sure.
So
All right, before we wrap up, I see we're already pushing 45 minutes and I've got a couple other things to cover.
yeah.
I, I I guess just sort of what's your any final thoughts or anything that you'd like to say in parting?
um I would say, like, especially to the young people out there, like, just get started. It's
I knew
the
you were going to say
important
that.
thing. I know the younger generation has a really hard time, like, saving money, They're big spenders. They're big on, portraying a certain lifestyle and things like that. But just get started, even if it's, even $10 a week.
Yeah.
Like, you can avoid that Starbucks coffee twice a week, or you can avoid that McDonald's lunch once a week, and just invest it. Just start.
Yeah. And you're right. Like even at $10, if you start young, and you can always increase that over time.
Yeah,
Start at
yeah,
$10
exactly.
when you're 20. By the time you're 25, maybe that's $50 or 30 or
Yeah,
35
whatever the case may be. Like,
or
I
whatever.
I started when I started in January, like, more with the Wealth Simple account. I was doing like $25 per paycheck, so every 2 weeks. And
Yeah.
now I'm doing $25 every week. And then when I get my monthly bonus, I'm putting a third of my bonus in. So I'm putting an extra like $150
Nice.
once a month. Once my bonus hits in my paycheck, and I'm like, ooh, I got that extra like $450. 150 is going into it.
Awesome.
So it's just, building it over time. You don't have to start high. You don't have to be pulling half your paycheck
Right.
right away. Like, there's some people out there that do, and they have the ability, which is fantastic for them, but not everybody has that ability.
Yeah,
But I
exactly.
just want to tell, like, that younger generation that you don't have to do a lot. You can start small, and it does build up. There's actually a tweet out there that I've retweeted a few times. Let me see if I can find it. Uh,
Yeah, well, you look for that tweet. I'm just going to kind of reiterate your point of, just getting started, or like I like to say, just get on base. And you've made it such a massively important point that you don't have to be rich to get started, or you don't need to have thousands or tens of thousands of dollars to get started. You can literally start with $1. Like obviously 10 is better, 25 is better,
yeah, I,
but
I think $1 is that minimum on Wealth Simple,
yeah,
which
like you can literally start with $1.
yeah, which was why
So
my big thing about getting my dividend payments to be over $1, because then I
right.
can just right off the bat reinvest it, as opposed to waiting until I'm putting in my other $25 investment, or waiting until another dividend hits to combine them. Um,
You'll
but
get there sooner than you think.
yeah. But yeah, there's a couple tweets from his Twitter handle is Smart Net Worth One. So his name is Nick.
Oh, Nick's been here.
Yeah,
Nick's
just
been here on the
looks like
Passive
that.
Income podcast.
Yeah, I'll have to look for that episode. But it's like, those 10-cent dividends soon becomes $1. $1 soon becomes $10. $10 becomes 100. It's that
Yeah,
snowball. And then another one he's used is like, first they cover your cell phone bill, then they'll cover your
yeah,
groceries, then they cover your mortgage, then they just cover all of your expenses. It's just,
yeah,
you don't have to start big. Like, just start. That's it.
yeah. No, Nick's a great guy. I love following him on Twitter. And yeah, he was a great guest here previously on the Passive Income podcast. So definitely shout out to Nick.
Yeah.
Before we sign off, like I said, off the hop, I have teamed up with Patrick over at investingshirts.com, and we will be giving away the Passive Income Posse Turn That Cash Register Around coffee mug. So in the comments below, if you'd like your shot at winning this mug, please comment below. What should they comment?
Um. Oh, geez, I don't know.
Just get
Yeah,
started.
just get
Just
started.
get started. Yeah. So we'll take anything in the comments. Just get started. Just get on base, or turn that cash register around, and we'll run this contest for a few days. So probably by recording this Thursday, which means this episode will be up either late Thursday or Friday afternoon. So we'll run the contest over the weekend until Sunday evening. Maybe we'll take it out to Monday. But yeah, so you have time to enter the contest and try to win yourself that beautiful, beautiful coffee mug.
Yeah.
Awesome. With that said, Laura, thank you so much for coming on and spending some time with me today. It's been an incredible conversation. Thoroughly enjoyed chatting with you. And yeah, so with that said, you know, to paraphrase or to say Laura's great thoughts, just get started, and you don't need to be rich to start. Just get
Yeah.
started. So, thank you so much for watching. If you are still here, well, we're over 50 minutes already. Wow, time got away from us
Yeah.
again. If you're still here over 50 minutes later, please be sure to hit subscribe.